Hello, focused learners, and welcome. Today, we're diving into Napoleon Hill's absolute masterclass, his guide to success, and looking exactly at how to build a truly unbreakable, positive mental attitude. Let's get right into it, because what we're going to explore today might just flip everything you thought you knew about your personal struggles, your failures, and your daily mental state completely upside down. Seriously, get ready to fundamentally rethink how you process reality. You know, looking at the world, there are kind of just two types of people. On one side, you've got the defeated. These are the folks who are constantly tired, always complaining, literally just trying to survive one day at a time. But then on the flip side, you have those who stand tall. These rare individuals, they smile when everyone else is breaking. They rise when others quit, and ultimately, they win. The crazy thing is, the difference between these two groups, it isn't IQ, it's not luck, and it's definitely not a fancy education. It's a completely different mental framework. So let me ask you right off the bat, what is actually controlling your mind today? Seriously, pause for a second and think about it. Is your internal world currently being run by fear, doubt, maybe self-pity and resentment? Or is it being driven by faith, purpose, gratitude, and a burning desire? Because here's the thing, the mind never just sits in neutral. If you aren't actively steering it, well, the world and your circumstances are going to steer it for you. All right, Section 1, the myth of positivity, shattering the toxic positivity cliché. So what exactly did Napoleon Hill mean by a positive mental attitude, or PMA? I'll tell you right now, it is not just thinking good thoughts. It's definitely not plastering a fake smile on your face when you feel like your soul is crushed. No, Hill defined PMA as a literal spiritual power. It's this intense, proactive ability to look right through the fog of your difficulties and still take action with absolute precision, faith, and purpose. In fact, it's considered the only known antidote to failure. And to prove this, Hill spent over 25 years studying the absolute giants of industry. We're talking guys like Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller. Think about Edison. He famously found 10,000 ways a light bulb wouldn't work. These guys didn't fear failure. They literally invited it in. They didn't surrender to setbacks. They studied them like scientists. And they never collapsed under pressure. Instead, they figured out how to transmute that defeat directly into success. They built massive historic empires because of this indestructible mindset, not because life just gave them an easy pass. Moving to Section 2, your definite chief aim, the absolute antidote to drifting. Hill had this great warning. He said, "Show me a man without a purpose, and I'll show you a man who drifts." It makes sense, right? Without a specific destination in mind, your brain just wanders like a leaf caught in the wind. And a drifting mind is a weak mind. It becomes incredibly easy to control by fear, doubt, or whatever random distraction pops up next. Drifting basically means you're just constantly being pushed around by fear. You become a perpetual victim to circumstance. But having a definiteness of purpose, oh man, that's entirely different. That means you wake up every single morning with a fire in your belly and a crystal clear vision in your mind. Your purpose becomes so powerful, so vivid, and so personal that it actually transforms into your identity in action. A person with that level of clarity cannot be broken. Which brings us to Section 3, Cosmic Housekeeping and Autosuggestion, Guarding the Mind's Front Door. You've got to remember this. Negative thoughts are not just innocent visitors. They are invaders. If you tolerate them, they're going to take over your house. If you entertain them, they will literally eat your purpose from the inside out. You have to practice ruthless, and I mean ruthless, cosmic housekeeping to protect your vision. Think of it like stopping criminals right at your front door. When fear and doubt try to force their way in, you've got to immediately replace them with faith and courage. When worry and self-pity knock, you slam the door in their face with gratitude and purpose. And if resentment tries to creep in, you override it completely with a strong voice of power. Now, you might be wondering, how do we make those replacements automatic? The secret is autosuggestion. This is basically the method where your subconscious mind becomes the soil for either weeds or fruit. Listen, you aren't born naturally positive or naturally negative. You're programmed by your environment and your experiences. But here's the magic. What is programmed can be completely rewritten. Your inner dialogue is either building your greatness brick by brick, or it's a silent assassin taking out your dreams. And it is entirely forged through constant repetition. So here is Hill's actionable 3-step daily routine to actually master autosuggestion. First, decide exactly what you want. Second, act daily in total harmony with that belief. No excuses. And third, take 5 minutes every single morning to repeat your purpose out loud. Do it with fire, with strength, and with real emotion. The subconscious doesn't care about passive wishes. It only gets reprogrammed by ruthless repetition that's backed by intense emotion. Let's jump to Section 4, the bridge of discipline, forging your attitude under pressure. Discipline is the bridge between thought and reality. Without it, your best intentions are really just delayed dreams. Men like Carnegie, Schwab, Edison, they didn't rise to the top just because they were naturally talented geniuses. They got there because they fiercely governed themselves. They controlled their time, they controlled their thinking, and they totally controlled their appetites. Ultimately, it all boils down to your daily micro-choices. On one hand, you can surrender to ease, endlessly scrolling, sleeping in, complaining about everything. But on the other hand, you can choose discipline, reading, waking up early, actively speaking power into your life. Every single time you choose discipline over a quick impulse, your inner strength levels up. But every time you surrender to comfort, your potential dies just a little bit more. You absolutely must defend your attitude like a warrior guards a sword. Cut off mental infection right at the source. Avoid poisonous media, run far away from gossip, and surround yourself exclusively with people who speak life into you. You've got to ignore the critics who are just addicted to mediocrity. Always remember, your environment is almost always stronger than your sheer willpower, so be absolutely ruthless about curating who and what gets to influence you. And that takes us to Section 5, redefining failure and adversity, finding the seed of greater benefit. Hill famously said, "Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit." If you actually believe this eternal law down to your bones, you can never, ever be broken. Because suddenly you realize that a setback isn't the end of your story at all. It's just a mandatory test you have to pass before your next level of elevation. Think about it. When life hits hard, two different people can face the exact same setback and walk away with completely different outcomes. A victim of circumstance, they become bitter and they curse the difficulty. But a master of response, they become better and they actually bless the teacher. Look, you cannot control what happens when life slaps you across the face. But having an unbreakable attitude completely redefines that difficulty, and it teaches you exactly how to walk right through the fire with purpose. To become that master of response, you have to train your mind to automatically reframe reality. You say to yourself, this pain is preparing me. This failure is redirecting me. This delay is protecting me. When you make this kind of framing a subconscious habit, you become incredibly dangerous to defeat. Why? Because life simply cannot hurt a person who just grows stronger every single time they get hit. Which leads us straight to this golden rule from Hill's teachings. Act as if it were impossible to fail. The fear of failure keeps us so small. And let's be honest, just the anticipation of defeat steals way more dreams than actual failure ever could. So consider this for a second. What actually happens if you completely remove the possibility of failure from your mind? Think about it. When you tell yourself, I cannot fail, I can only learn, I cannot break, I can only bend and bounce back stronger, well, fear just runs away. Doubt flees. You instantly move from hesitation to command. You become a true leader by spirit, armed with this magnetic confidence and certainty that the world simply has to follow. So my final question for you today is this. Will you decide? Will you claim full ownership of your thoughts and become unbreakable? Or are you going to let the world decide for you? The choice is 100% yours. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me today. Now, think carefully. What is the very first thought you're going to let into your mind after this ends?